Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, where today we're discussing David Fincher's Seven.
Spoiler alert.
Spelled with a 7 instead of a V. But it still makes sense when you look at it for some reason.
Originally there was a 7 instead of a V, and then they just got rid of it.
When did they get rid of it?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
Sometime after the fact.
When they realized that it was really hard to read.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate
stylized.
movie names with numbers in them, like Fear 3, but it's Fathrir. No, it's
At least
keep it at the
No,
end.
it's like Fathriar.
Fathriar. Yeah.
7 with a 7 instead of the V would be Sevenen.
At least a 3 looks like an E, whereas the 7 doesn't
It's
look
a
like
V
a V
sideways.
at all.
It's a V sideways.
It's a V sideways, James.
Oh, I get it now.
Sort of.
So
It's
annoying
weak.
to type, though.
Yes.
Holy cow.
I choose not to.
But on Plex, I watched it on Plex, and it was with a 7.
It's a 7.
And I was trying to search the damn thing.
Oh, I see.
was the E
so
in Plex
annoying.
a 3?
Is that
There's no 3. There's 1. All right.
the S is a 5.
David, what do you give this movie out of 10?
7 reminds us all that if you ever go into someone's house that is painted entirely black, it's definitely time to call the police. 8.35 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Nice. Wait, which one was painted all... Oh, inside it was painted black.
Kevin Spacey's house is all black, and boy, if your house is painted black, you are a serial killer.
Yeah, I mean...
No reason to paint
That
black.
red cross just glowing
Yeah.
over your bed like a Starboy music video? Like,
Yeah.
no. Get out of there, lady.
Just a normal person.
Yeah.
Also, my fingers are bleeding.
Can you imagine being a landlord and your tenant's like, I just want to paint my whole house black? No.
You wouldn't
No.
tell him. You wouldn't tell the landlord.
Well, maybe he's a good tenant. How
John
do you know?
Doe doesn't ask permission. Riley, what do you give this movie out of 10?
In a world gone mad, one madman might just be mad enough to make Morgan Freeman mad enough to skip retirement. What's in the box? Darkness.
Madness.
Oh, it should have been madness. You're right. Big missed
That was a
opportunity.
300 reference I just did there.
7.5 out of 10. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's
So my girlfriend gives it.
This is the kind of movie that I recognize the quality of, but I don't love myself.
It's because you're a wuss. You don't like gritty. All right, 7 is an unapologetically 90s thriller that, like Kevin Spacey, is simultaneously amazing and creepy. 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. Like I'm not a wuss, James. It's not like I shy away from these movies. I will go in all the way. I'm like, hey, show me the darkness, you know? I
with
don't have
you.
to like it, though.
8.35 is on my objective scale. If it's like a more subjective, I'd probably bring it down a tiny bit. I don't enjoy this movie, but it's a
Yeah.
good movie.
I kind of had to give it an 8.5 because I said that the platform was an 8.2, and this is definitely better.
Yeah. You're trapped. I know. I always feel bad about that when I have scores that are totally wrong later and I have to adjust for those.
Yeah,
Life's hard.
I felt pressured to give this like a 7.75 because I knew everyone loves it so much. But I was like, nah, this is just 7.5. That's all you get.
It's 90s, but it ages pretty well.
It's
Let's
not about
talk all about that, though.
Let's do it.
After this message from our sponsor.
Okay.
Private Internet Access VPN. It helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even has a goddamn Chrome extension. So check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics.
Was that too much?
That's great.
That perfectly sounded like a strap-on knife.
Oh, God.
We're also supported by Vessi Footwear, famous for making shoes that are light, comfortable, and most importantly, waterproof. They're made from a dual climate knit material. They're 100% vegan. Yeah. They're also just, They've also just announced the new weekend shoe, which some of us are wearing right now.
Some of us are living for.
I can see them. I can smell them right now. Be classy. Head to vessi.com/carpoolcritics to reserve your own or check out their existing lineup and get $25 off using our code.
Work for that shoe.
Shop smart.
It's working for the week. Working for the weekend.
Vessi.com/carpoolcritic.
Love you, Vessi.
We're not chills. I swear.
Hey, Riley, why don't you remind us what this movie's all about for those of
Okay.
us who haven't seen it since 95?
It's been a while, guys, so here's a refresher. Detective Somerset, played by Morgan Freeman, is 7 days away from retirement in Gotham City. It basically is. But it's supposed to be unnamed. We're not supposed to know what the city is. He meets his replacement, the young, headstrong Detective Mills, played by Brad Pitt, at a crime scene where an obese man was apparently forced to eat himself to death. The next day, a lawyer is murdered with the word greed written on the floor in his blood. It becomes clear the killer, who goes by John Doe, is choosing his victims based on the 7 deadly sins: gluttony, greed, sloth, envy, lust, pride, wrath, and listening to WAP by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion.
Macaroni in a pot.
After the sloth victim is found, the detectives locate John's apartment, leading to a chase during which John has an opportunity to kill Mills, but instead spares his life. While investigating the apartment, Mills answers a phone call from John, who says he admires him and that his plans have changed. After 2 more murders based on lust and pride, John Doe turns himself in, offering a full confession if he's allowed to lead Somerset and Mills to the final 2 bodies. After driving outside of town, a van arrives with a box containing the severed head of Mills' wife, Tracy.
What's in the box?
What's in it? It was John's plan that Mills would kill him out of wrath, as John was guilty of envy for Mills' simple life. Mills nearly manages to control his emotions until John reveals that Tracy was pregnant. Mills shoots him in the head, thus completing John's masterpiece, and is arrested. The movie ends with Somerset quoting Ernest Hemingway, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for. I agree with the second part." That's the best Morgan Freeman I could do.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's better than the last time I tried it.
You been working on that?
Well, not really, actually. That just came out.
That line's not supposed to be in the movie.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, it was added.
I heard that
the
David
test
Fincher...
audiences were like, we don't like this ending. It was supposed to end with just Brad Pitt walking away, and I think it's like a really powerful ending.
Right.
They're like, what?
But then Morgan Freeman's or Somerset's arc wouldn't have an end, really. We wouldn't know for sure if he became the type of person who thinks that you should act on the world and be like a force of change instead of just being apathetic.
He does say when they're taking Brad Pitt away, or we're just going to call him Brad Pitt the whole time?
Mills.
When they're taking him away, Somerset says, take care of him or whatever, be nice to him or something, and then he's like, I'll be around. So I think that might indicate that he's like, all right, I'm not going to retire after all, but...
I hate that.
That doesn't really say that he's not retiring, though.
It's true.
The only other indication that maybe he's come around and chosen a side is when before the whole desert sequence, when he's just telling Mills, like, hey, keep me on in this case. I'm just interested now. Like,
yeah.
But
I just want to find out what happens.
That's just not very clear. So I think we really need that voiceover.
Oh, so you think you'd rather the voiceover stay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I find that the final scene just feels so like 70s buddy cop. Like, what are you gonna do now? I'll be around.
But that's not what's at issue. What's at issue is you said the voiceover, the Hemingway thing.
Yeah, but
I'm saying we need that.
Yeah, but they're together because like it was gonna end with the Brad Pitt walking away, so that's part of this.
You mean Morgan Freeman walking away?
No, Brad Pitt walking away. The final shot was gonna be the helicopter shot of Brad Pitt walking away from Morgan Freeman.
Is that when you hear the helicopter radio chatter? They're like, "Call somebody! Somebody call somebody!"
Yeah,
I'm not sure because all the helicopter stuff, stuff is shot as a reshoot as well. Like they didn't originally have that, but the tested well enough that they got extra budget to get a helicopter and then be able to do all those sequences.
Interesting.
So this is interesting because you're saying it should have ended there, but they have that extra scene where Mills is being taken away in a cop car.
Yeah.
And that's when Somerset says, I'll be around. So you think that whole scene should have been cut out?
I agree with James that you're right. You need to close Morgan Freeman's arc, but I hate the tone of that final scene. It just feels like 60s or 70s cop serial where he's like, where are you going to be, Magnum?
I'll be around, and then he fires his grappling hook and
it just feels so
vanishes into the shadows.
It's like at the end of Begins, where he's like, I never thanked you, and you'll never have to.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, whoa, okay.
I'm Somerset.
No, I thought that was so cool in the helicopter when he's like, somebody call somebody.
That was confusing to me because I'm like, what? You're cops. Like
exactly.
You're who they call.
That's how bleak it is. They don't even know what to do in that situation.
Well,
Where's the adults? We don't know how to act.
They are the adults.
Well, exactly.
What?
That's why how like just like John Doe set it out to be. He wanted to like blow their minds. They couldn't even comprehend what they were seeing. They don't know what to do. The situation is so dire and bleak. The person on the radio it's just like.
Is it really that wild to see
a cop execute a prisoner?
Well, sure, but like they don't know whether they had a bomb or something. I don't know. I feel like they're just like, oh my God, he shot him. It's like, there's a serial killer. I don't know. Half of them probably wanted him dead anyways.
I'm with James on this. I think it's pretty crazy to see a cop that you thought was in control of the situation just execute a dude.
I think that the line gets that across 100%. I just thought it was kind of weird because they're like, who do we call? And I'm like, what? Would you ever have a policeman on the scene of a crime being like, who do I call? What do I do? You're the cops. I don't know. It just seems
silly.
Happen.
It happens in war situations with soldiers.
I think that a cop would be like internally, oh my God, what do we do? But he wouldn't say like, somebody call somebody. Who do we call, the fireman?
Ghostbusters. I think it's consistent with the tone of the movie, and that tone is bleak. And I think it works with like making the people that the people that you're used to being in control, having the power, are out of control and don't feel like they have the power over the situation. And it goes to accentuate, I think, what the whole movie is kind of pushing for.
I completely agree. It gets that across. I just thought it was kind of cheesy and weird.
You know what surprised me about this movie is how it kind of didn't age well, but it really aged well. Like, so when it first started, like, once again, my wife was on her phone, and I was like, can you just watch this movie? Just put that away. Like, you're going to like this. This is a good movie. Just watch it. And so she hadn't seen it before. And then I think after, like, the second scene where we see the greed guy all fat and dead, she was like, oh, it's a 7 deadly sins. Like, and that is totally fair.
Yeah.
It really is, like, such a gimmicky 90s movie, especially with the tone of, like, the intro. Like, it has one of those opening credit sequences that seems so alien now.
It was so weird. I was like, is this a TV show?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Oh, see, again.
And the novelty, but hold on.
Yeah.
And just, like, the gimmick aspect of it, like, oh, there's going to be 7 murders, and each one's going to be a type of sin, and blah, blah, blah. But then it doesn't really lean into that hard, and it totally still succeeds as just being like a cool crime drama.
Totally. I think this movie could have been total trash, but it's elevated by David Fincher's deft hand. I think having a really tropish buddy cop movie, it could have been so cheesy, but they do a good job at like just like removing a lot of dialogue, having it all be through action. They show so much, they don't tell so much, and it really is effective. And the bleak tone, man, it's bleak.
They don't spend that much time on the 7 deadly sins aspect of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much like within the first, 20 minutes or something like that, you get Somerset saying, there's 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
And he just like names them all out. Greed, sloth, pride. It's like, cool. And then that's about it. After they go to the library and they get all the sources and they kind of know who this guy is and how he has like a plan, that's about it. And when you see in detail and slowly the first like 3 murders, but after that, like the Pride one.
Yeah, they kind of gloss over it.
They're very fast.
Yeah.
But they're still cool crime scenes. So it's right down the middle. Rides the line perfectly.
Right.
And I think that the part of why it works is that the crimes are so gruesome.
Yeah.
And that it's really kind of difficult to watch. Even though there's no on-screen violence, like when the guy who put on the strap-on knife had to have sex with the prostitute, you're like, oh, God.
I know, yeah. I think like this is from 1995, and like we've gotten so many crazy, serial killer narratives and movies and whatnot since then. And I think the fact that this still managed to just shock and like make you uncomfortable to the level that it can, I was like,
what's amazing about that is that I feel like in the subsequent movies that surpassed it in those ways it was only because it was graphic.
Right.
And they're just showing more, and you're like, ew.
Yeah.
Like I don't like Human Centipede and Hostel in particular, like, oh, you get to see like a blowtorch on an eyeball.
Yeah.
But in this movie, not only was it probably too early to show that kind of extreme gore in cinema history.
Saw hadn't happened.
They couldn't do it, but it's actually more effective because your imagination does it. They're describing the act verbally. You see a picture of the weapon, the strap-on knife dildo thing.
Oh, man. Your mind fills it in.
And then you see the person describing the act and how like shell-shocked that person is, like the trauma that person's like shivering to get the words out. You're like, whoa, you put those two together and your imagination does more than any cinematographer ever could.
It's messed up, man. Yeah, I think that like it's way better. This way of depicting these kind of horrors is way better in my opinion. I feel like movies that kind of just are like, whoa, look at us, look how crazy we are, blah, 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 blah. Like this one, it's so much more dark and so much more affecting when you don't see it.
But it's funny, it's almost like a hack, kind of like what we talked about in the last episode, the platform. We were talking about how there's no way that they could show like a mutilated dog. People, the audience would be pissed, let alone regulators. But if they just show like a big pile of blood and it's like, we know that was a dog, then that's somehow like, that's okay. Even though it's like gorier, it's so far from being a dog that it's okay. It's the same thing here where it's like, this is just verbal, but because my mind's filling it in, it's actually darker and grosser.
Yeah, you're not going so far down the circle. Because, like, you could have, like, a sequence. Like, I can imagine Hostel 7 having, like, a strap-on knife sequence. And, like, you see it and blood's coming out and shit. And it would just be like, this is stupid. This is fucking...
Or you'd leave. Or you'd just be like, why?
When I see a scene like that, I'm not thinking about like, ooh, what is this movie saying? Or like, this is silly. I'm just like imagining the face of the director as he's like overseeing this, or like the writer as he's writing it. And I'm like, you're fucked, dude. What's wrong?
Yeah, sometimes you got to worry about those people.
What's wrong with you, man?
I think this movie does a really good job, like you said, just giving you just enough. And part of it is in the crime, but also in the character beats. Like, I think they do a really brilliant things with, like, these little simple scenes that tell you so much about the characters. Like, when Brad Pitt is first in the rain with the 2 coffees.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman walks up. He's like, I got you a coffee. So, like, you set up the dynamic. He wants to please this guy. It's his new day. You get that dynamic. Morgan Freeman's like, whatever, I don't drink coffee. Immediately, he puts it down because Brad Pitt is quick on his feet, and you can understand that he knows how to work in this environment, but he still has his. He's like, that's cool. But as they approach the house, he's got the intuition enough to know, I don't really want this coffee in the house, and just hands it away. So you get like so much of this character building that can be interpreted in a few different ways. And this movie does a lot of that, where there's just little character moments that are so quick, but you get to know these characters so well, so much better than if they had just said it. Like,
even the opening shot, you get Morgan Freeman's character. What is it? It's a hand picking up items which have been meticulously aligned that he's putting in his pocket so he can start his day.
Yep.
My glasses, my butterfly knife, my notepad, they're all put in a nice line, right? So you know he's meticulous.
Yeah.
It's the first thing we learn in seconds in the movie. The
metronome in his apartment.
The next scene is he's at that crime scene, which is immaterial to the rest of the movie, but some man did a murder-suicide, and then he's looking at a fridge. He says, did the kids see? Yeah. Now we know, okay, he's likable. He cares about kids. And the other cop there is like, who gives a fuck if the kids saw?
Right.
So succinct. In 30 seconds, we know 2 important things about this character. It's all we need to know.
Yeah, we definitely... Yeah, that's actually... I wrote down, right as soon as that line happened, I'm like, he's a thinker. Like, they do a really good job.
He's compassionate.
Or he's just kind of like... He just wants all the details.
He's thinking outside the box, too.
Totally.
Yeah.
He notices things.
He wants to get an outside perspective, you know? They're like, it doesn't matter. Why are you thinking about that if it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think that's why this movie works, even when it has a cop being like, I'm only 6 days from retirement. I don't want to die. I got 6 days from retirement. And then it works because they've been so smart with everything else that you're like,
Jim.
Fine, this works. I'll allow it to go. And like, the movie's so grounded in this bleak reality that you allow the tropes to happen to you without being like, come on, like...
I think it works. It's like, I think David Fincher said he wanted to do a film, like it's a film noir.
Yep.
But I think he said he wanted to make a black and white film in color. And so that's why it's so like dark and the colors are very muted. And I think that that's partially why it gets away with some of these tropes and cheesy bits where it's like, Jim, don't give me a case 7 days from my retirement, I swear. Yeah. I also wanted to say about that first scene where, oh no, that's not the first scene. With a coffee scene.
Yep.
That's not where they meet. That's the obese guy.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great bit of characterization for Mills as well, because he, you know, they say he asks if they've checked vitals or whatever, and the cop's like, no, we haven't touched anything. He's like, what do you mean you didn't check vitals? And he like cares about the little details and like following procedure and stuff. And I think that's kind of, it's very identifiable once you kind of look back later as like the beginning of his arc, of his downward spiral. From like, we get that he cares about things, whereas Somerset is apathetic, and we'll talk about that later. That's kind of his sort of like journey going from apathy to caring. Mills goes from caring a lot to throwing it all away by giving into.
When it works,
wrath,
because that's
the dark side.
The trope is having your old world weary cop with a young, fresh-eyed young buck who's just like, I'm going to do everything by the book. But they don't lean into it. Like, they have him not fall into all of the rookie cop tropes. Like, he's not actually a rookie. He's just new here. Or like, he's told by Somerset, like, go do something else. I don't want you here. Yeah. And he just like shines his flashlight in his eyes to be like, I know what you're doing, fucker. Like,
yeah, that was interesting.
And like, and it's just, it works to elevate the trope just a little bit, enough that your mind doesn't fight it.
He's not really sold as a by the book kind of guy, although I think he is one. He's more just sold as like, I'm here to do good. That's what he says. I thought I could do a little good. That's why I'm coming to this crap that's like shithole.
Yeah.
Even though you think that's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But he does, he swears at the suspects and stuff, and he's kind of a messy guy.
But I think that works to muddy the waters of what we would expect, because like he has the notepad, he knows all this stuff, but he doesn't go to the first reporter that comes to him and like give his interview being like, yeah, we're trying our best to like find the villain.
He's not the plucky dreamer. Yeah,
and it works.
He's been around the block a few times, and it's kind of funny when Somerset sends him away or whatever, and then when they're in the car later, the fact that he was treated as like a young person kind of like makes him regress a little bit. And they're in the car, and Mills is like, "You looked at my file, right? Like, I've seen some shit. Like, you know I've been around.
You've seen what I've done.
You've seen what I've done." And Somerset is like, "Nope." Like, he didn't look at the file.
Yeah, of course he didn't.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back a little bit to that title sequence, because it's voted the third best title sequence in movies ever.
I was so funny.
What?
We can laugh at it because the style of it is so dated, and that grungy industrial music like doesn't age super well.
Be careful, Brody. Be careful.
Can I just say, it's not that I didn't necessarily like the title sequence. It was that A, it was very 90s, and B, we're not used to these like super long title sequences in movies. I was like, this would be right at home in like a HBO or whatever.
True Detective.
Yeah, True Detective or something.
Yeah. See why I like it is that, I mean, it gives us a bunch of tonal promises, but it also is our only portal into the villain until we see him at like the 3/4 mark of the movie. So like we get to know the villain a little bit through the flashes we see. Like we see him blanking out like fornication and like transsexual, and he's like blanking out all these like illicit words. Like,
oh man, I didn't even pay that much attention.
Yeah, and like he's like got his weird texture. He's like razoring his skin because he's cutting it off, and it gets you. Maybe you don't pick it up on the first time. I mean, I've seen this movie before, but
this was the first time
it's the first indication of what that villain is. You get to see him, even though it's abstract and weird, and you don't necessarily put it together. It works for me for that reason.
I thought that tonally it actually got ahead of the movie a little bit. The scenes we saw before that weren't as like just as gritty.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, suddenly the imagery is just like a lot more provocative than the movie had shown us up to that point. I
think it's getting us, because it's in such quick flashes, it's getting us ready. Because I mean, the dude doubled over in his food with his like body bursting and veins everywhere. That's gruesome. And I think having like the weird stuff happen in abstract form helped me build up to that.
Okay, I kind of ramp up. Yeah. I was listening to I was like, this really sounds like Trent Reznor music. And I knew that he had done, like later on, worked with Fincher and Atticus Ross on Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Right.
And then so I was like, did Trent Reznor do this music this? And then it just really sounds Nine Inch Nailsy. And then it ends with you can hear him singing one line. Oh, yeah. I'm like, it is closer. Okay, sweet.
He also did Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that sorry, every Howard Shore
and also
lover.
a Social Network.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, every Howard Shore lover. I mean, I love him. I don't think he was the right choice to score this movie. I didn't like the score at all in this movie. I found it sometimes fine. Like the climax is totally okay. It all works. It's dramatic. But there's some moments where the instrumentation or something sounds really cheap and thin. The biggest example.
Raid?
No, for me, the biggest example is in the midpoint of the movie when Morgan Freeman is getting in a taxi and it's raining and he's like narrating or talking to the taxi driver. And the music, it sounds like it's like a synth string orchestra, but it's synths that are supposed to sound like a real orchestra. And I doubt that it's synths because it's like not a low budget movie, but it sounded so weird and thin.
It was
and
the
just
90s.
Didn't fit with it.
They were super into synths.
It was the 90s, baby.
Yeah, they're like, why would we not use synths? They're cool.
Real violence?
Have you seen this? Have you seen my new keyboard, dude?
We've had synths since like the 50s, dude.
Yeah, but this was like everyone had a synth.
It was the iPad of the day.
It's David Fincher's kid.
I had to look up a couple. I had to look up a couple of lines of dialogue between Tracy, that's Mills' wife, and Mills. He answers the phone like late at night and starts taking notes, and she's like, I thought we moved here to get away from tractor pulls. I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then he's like,
he's working the fields of detective work.
So tractor pulling is a sport where two tractors connect to each other but face opposite directions and try to pull each other. Like,
yeah, I think I didn't really know what the term meant, so I kind of ignored it.
I think what it means is like when you work in an office and you're just trying to be like you're just trying to outperform everyone else at that office. And so like, he's answering the phone late at night and just working, like no work-life balance.
Right.
And then after that, they make reference to an older movie from the 70s starring Al Pacino where she calls him Serpico.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'll be right back, Serpico. I had no idea what that was.
Oh, yeah, really? Me neither.
I knew that one.
In that movie, Pacino is like a good cop who gets brought down by a bullet from corrupt cops. So he's
oh wow, the irony.
He's calling him like a good cop.
The foreshadowing. Because ironically, he doesn't get brought down by a bullet from a corrupt cop, but he is corrupted and takes down another guy with a bullet.
I mean, you could say he's brought down by his own bullet.
Wow.
You're not wrong, but I think you're kind of reaching. I think
I'm definitely reaching.
It just serves to set him up as a good cop. I
think people in '95 would have known Serpico a little bit more because it's a pretty big movie.
Totally.
That and Dog
My
Day
dad
Afternoon
never
is
shuts up about Serpico.
Seriously?
No.
Oh.
Never heard of it.
I
do like how they had a fun relationship. They call each other dingleberries and idiots and losers and stuff.
they did a great
Dingleberry
job.
was the best when he's on the phone with her. He's like, "You dingleberry."
They did a great job setting up her character because it's so earned at the end where she becomes the device that kind of unravels his whole psyche and everything like that. It's so earned. They keep doing all these subtle tricks throughout the movie to make us care about her. Like, first of all, they're high school sweethearts.
Right.
It's not just someone you met a year ago. You didn't just go elope in Vegas.
Yeah.
They've been in love forever, right? Yeah. And then on the lead up into that big raid in the desert.
Raid?
Well, it's not a raid. Hold on, let me just find the spot here. Oh yeah. And then on the lead up, when they're just talking about how they're going to go into the desert, he drops two references to his wife that are seemingly immaterial. They're just there, like he's talking about people having like communications or something like that, and he's like, "My wife doesn't even have cable TV."
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty transparent. I've never seen this movie before, but I don't even think I had it spoiled for me, but I had seen and heard enough references to what's in the box that I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be his wife's head. And so like even though I've never seen this movie, the fact that he like references his wife a few times in the lead up to that final
If I keep coming home late, my wife's going to think something's up.
Yeah.
But like that example, it's like anyone could have said that.
That's true.
It's so colloquial.
But I think it's also that he doesn't really mention his wife to Somerset that often in the movie before that.
But his wife is seeking a relationship with Somerset, and it works
in a weird way.
No, she's calling. She calls and is like, "I want to speak to your buddy," and like arranges the dinner. And
that's cute.
I think it works because I mean, for you, even though you kind of knew she was going to die, did you feel like it was cheap the way they were building her character? Because sometimes in movies, when like someone's going to die and they're like giving you just a little bit of character development, you're like, they're gonna die. Who cares? It feels like they're just building them up to die. I don't find that.
I don't
with
know.
This movie.
Like I a part of me does feel like it was just kind of pretty transparent that the only reason, because what other.
She's not. That isn't the only reason. Her role. She's the B plot, and the B plot is usually used to explore the themes more explicitly outside of like the main plot of the movie. So she sits down every time she's with Somerset, and they explore the theme of like this city going to shit and apathy and.
I guess so. I thought that scene was kind of weird. It kind of felt out of place. Like I get what you're saying, that is the purpose of a B plot, and that's certainly what it did. But I feel like it kind of took focus away for me, and it wasn't really interesting. It was like, it really did feel like, because in terms of, she doesn't have much role in the main plot other than as Mill's wife. Like she has no real action that she takes in anything other than to reach out to Somerset and invite him over for dinner or whatever. But then after that, when she's like, "Hey, let's go for a coffee or whatever," I thought that was just, I don't know. I was like, "What's the point of this?"
Yeah, it raised the stakes.
Yeah. No, the purpose of it in the plot is to have her, the audience attach more to her, and for us to understand the relationship between Mills and her a bit more, and that she's pregnant, and that there's stakes here, so that when we see her head in there, we're like, "Oh my God!"
But
we're
it's also
with her.
no, it's also hiding behind the veil of learning more about Somerset, because he explains how he was close to marriage once, and that they didn't go to term with the pregnancy, and he kind of regrets it all the time.
Yeah.
And because he has these things that they hint at that are about his past and why he's so cynical. Like at the beginning of the movie, they talked about these 2 cases that never got convictions or whatever, and he said those were brought as close to convictions as humanly possible. I did my job, but I just, no cop could have done it.
What scene is that? The one where they're waiting for the fingerprint results or whatever?
Maybe it's pretty early. It's pretty early.
Oh, early.
It's early in the movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not the one where he says most clues lead to other ones or whatever.
No, it's earlier. It's between like another cop and him, or like the
okay.
captain and him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I liked the scenes where we get more characterization of Somerset. I feel like I just felt like that scene in particular didn't add that much for me. I was kind of like, okay, I assume that you were in a relationship at one point, and the abortion story is like, okay, he's telling that to her because it's pertinent to her life right now, but it doesn't really reveal that much about him. I don't know. I didn't love it. I think it basically just boils down to like I wasn't that engaged with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And
what's that look, James?
I just think it's a pretty tight script. I liked it.
I just didn't, and I didn't feel myself caring. But again, maybe that's just because
like,
I knew.
You son of a bitch! That little scene does like 4 different jobs. Like, how dare you?
Well, but I think that it does something. This is an interesting point. Something accomplishing something for the script or the plot doesn't mean that it's gonna feel natural. Like you might be watching it and being like, oh, I see what they're doing here. This is a good job, screenwriter. You found a way to work this in so that it makes sense at the end. But for me, it needs to feel like a natural progression of the story. There needs to be momentum, and I feel like that scene just kind of like takes the momentum that we're on with the main plot and just kind of stops it for a while so we can have this little meeting.
Yeah, that might be true because in the previous scene with Tracy where they had dinner at the Mills' place, it's the context of it is that these 2 cops who are in conflict,
right?
They're gonna break that down and have a better relationship when that's really germane to the main plot.
Yes.
So that wasn't to put the brakes on for you.
Yeah, and
okay.
I feel like that scene, the diner scene, maybe would have worked better for me if Tracy had some sort of role in the main plot in addition to also just being like a MacGuffin of like the pregnant lady who ends up dying.
That's not a MacGuffin, but I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think Brad Pitt's that good in this movie.
I thought
hate
he was,
him.
Really?
I hate. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that he was
the character or the performance.
The performance.
I hate the character 100%. He's so annoying. And there are times when I'm like, oh, this is a bad performance.
I thought it was a good performance.
Most of the time, I thought it was great, but like, especially at the end.
It's like, I think it's hard.
It's hard, but like he just, I don't know. I can see him like funneling this real emotion when he's like, "What's in the box?
Yeah.
What's in the box? Hey, what's in the box? Tell me what's in the box."
Yeah, and the like pointing the gun going down. I don't know. I just don't
and
buy
he was
it.
like goes from crying to bold to crying.
He's crying, resolve, resolve.
It could be a skit, like how goofy it is.
Yeah.
I liked the odd rhythm of it. I thought it made it more realistic and
I think
different.
that's fair, and I think if I was in a different mood, I might have appreciated it. The scene that I really didn't like is when Kevin Spacey first kind of reveals himself. He's taking the photos in the stairway. They're outside of whatever the sloth guy's apartment. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt smacks the camera out of his hand, chases him off, and he turns back. He's like, "I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. You know, he was just there.
I'm a photographer. I hate those machines. Don't take my image."
Whoa, dude. What's going on? It felt so weird.
Yeah.
And that's
I like
not
his
Brad
performance
Pitt.
in this movie. He's got a lot of lines that stand out that I don't know if they wrote them down or if he just said it. Like when the phone is ringing, he's looking for it and he's just running around pointing at people. Phone,
Yeah, I
phone.
like that.
That's good stuff, man.
Oh, that was fine.
And when
yeah.
he's in the car with Kevin Spacey and he's like, You're a fucking movie of the week. You're a t-shirt at best.
Yeah.
Like
That
awesome.
stuff works. And I love that like he struggles to read the Divine Comedy, and then he gets the Sparks notes delivered to him. I'm like, that's a great character.
He hides that. He doesn't want.
That was a good little.
There's a thing he did where I was like, I bet that's improv. It's when he's falling asleep on the couch with Somerset, like they're just sleeping in some hallway waiting for the documents to get printed or something. Hey, he puts his head on the arm of the couch, and there's one of those freestanding ashtrays, like 6 inches from the arm of the couch.
Yeah.
And he puts his head down, then he lifts it back up and looks at the ashtray, and he moves the ashtray as far as he can without getting up, and then he puts his head down again. I feel like
that might be improv.
That was just improv. He went down there, he could smell it, and he's like, I wouldn't sleep here with that. And that just seems so real.
I don't know. That seems like a basic actor thing that somebody might do.
I think my favorite character moment is when Morgan Freeman is at Brad Pitt's apartment and they're kind of just chilling after dinner trying to solve the case. They're going through what they have. And he's like, do you want a beer? He's like, wine, please. And he pours them like a full pint of wine. Like a huge glass of wine. Morgan Freeman just takes it, doesn't mind. But he's just too busy. But then the train happens and they have to like lift their drink so they don't spill. And he's like,
yeah, he looks.
And it's one of those things where it says a lot, but I'm not sure what it says. Like, does it say Brad Pitt like doesn't really know how to serve wine, or does it say that he's like we're in for a long night?
I think there's a couple things that's saying. One, that Brad Pitt isn't a classy guy or whatever, and he's just like, who cares? You don't need a fancy wine glass. Here's some wine in a cup, whatever.
15 ounces.
And B, it might also be saying that Brad Pitt isn't all into like staying up all night. So he's like, I'm going to give you a bunch of wine so that maybe you fall asleep and then we don't have to keep working in the middle of the night.
Or he wants to be kind of drunk and
sure.
Throw down. Have a deep
specifically, he says, I got to walk my dogs and go to sleep. Yeah. So that's how I explain
That's why that's why it's so important to show, not tell, because there's like that action is so much better than if he's like, here you go, and they like laugh about it, or like he says like, oh, whatever, I want to pour you a big thing because we're gonna do something.
Yeah,
because they don't state their intention, you can take out of it what you will, and it means so much more, and it's so much more effective.
I think David Fincher is really good at that kind of sort of like background details where they're there if you want to look for them, but you don't need to see them.
Do you know what else he is really good at?
What?
So much better than Chris Nolan. Sound mixing.
Dude, I was going to say, I just got my surround speakers arrived this week. This is the first movie I'm listening to with my new surround, my dipoles. And I've had surround sound in the past, but this movie, more than any other movie.
And then you lost it.
I kept being,
And now it's back.
It's back.
Wow.
I kept being like, is that happening outside? Like, are those sirens outside?
Oh, man.
Sounded so well integrated.
It's so good. And I mean, this is a movie that's like, they teach sound design off of because it's so dense. Every scene, there's so many layers. They're building this totally bleak world just by the weight of the sound design, but it never gets so cluttered you can't process it. Like you go down into the club or like the sex club or whatever, and it's loud.
Yeah.
It's like way louder than most sound designers would feel comfortable having the music. It's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I had to turn it down when my baby was sleeping. I was like,
That's fair. But you never miss the dialogue. And that's so important. It's like mixed so well. And as I looked into it and I was like, does David Fincher do this a lot? He does that a lot. He likes club music or bar music really loud, but he knows when you can't hear it, you put subtitles. Like in Mindhunter, that happens. There's a scene there at a concert or like a bar, there's a concert.
Oh,
it's
really?
too loud. He puts subtitles.
Wait, what? Even if you don't have subtitles on, they just come
put
up?
it because he knows. And that's why Chris Nolan and everyone who's defending Tenet for bad sound design should not.
More like Christopher doesn't Nolan.
Dab on him.
Talking about stuff in the background, what do you guys think was the significance of the train that shakes Mill's apartment?
That's a train going through his subconscious, and they need to go
back to Nolan.
They need to go a level deeper. So
I think it's just like he's in the heart of the city, like he's in the darkness, he's in the crappy part, and it's not. I don't know if it serves a thematic purpose more than like a tonal purpose.
I think it does. I think it's kind of. Just
I think you
could
make one up if you wanted to.
I think it's a form of foreshadowing that he and his family are vulnerable to this. The city represents the fact that we live in a fallen world. It's not like just that like humans are evil by nature and that the world we live in is just gone to crap. It's that the city actually is a manifestation of that crap, and their home is under attack by the city.
That's fair.
It's adjacent to this city and it's disrupting them. And when you see Gwyneth Paltrow's character Tracy, in her own apartment and it's like shaking, I just think it just makes us feel like, oh yeah, she's just because she's not engaging with the plot directly doesn't mean that she's
unaffected.
Totally.
Like, impregnable.
I think that serves the theme of like apathy too, where it's like you have to just pretend like it's not happening until it goes away,
right?
And it kind of helps to go with that. So,
I think that reading would maybe be stronger if the shaking in the house like caused some real, like if it was a bit more oppressive or something. But as it is, it's presented as like a comedic thing. Like it happens and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, it sucks. We didn't know about it until we bought the house. But then they all start laughing about it. So
that's all you can do is laugh.
I think you can still read it like that and it works.
I don't think it's really that much of a joke. Like he expresses how much he hates the realtor, how much of a snake that guy is, and
Yeah.
they really look like they're like, oh yeah, we know, we're stuck now. We bought this thing.
Sure,
and
but
it's
then
just another example of how like the people in the world are shitty too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
buy
think
that.
the laughing kind of serves to like undercut that because they're like, instead of it being this oppressive force, it's just kind of like, well, life sucks.
I think though, like that scene in the movie, one of its purposes is to provide a breather where there's not crazy tension
and bonding.
Yeah, and bonding. And so if you take away that levity from the scene, I think
I don't want to take it away.
Yeah,
I'm
the
just saying
movie's
that,
too
that
dark.
the reading of that significance would be stronger if that wasn't there.
I don't know. People always laugh to cope.
That's fair.
You know?
Okay.
What do you guys
Some of the most like comedic communities on Earth are people who come from hardship.
Hey, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying for the tone of the movie.
Well, I don't like you.
What do you guys think of the way that they shot this movie to feel like an episode of Cops, in the sense that like you're just a bystander there watching over the cop's shoulders?
As opposed to what?
Like more stationary cameras. Like most of this movie is shot handheld, literally over the shoulder shots of everything, and it's I mean, shaky cam often goes to serve like an unsettling feeling, or like in action scenes to heighten the tension, like when they go on the chase, it goes crazy. But they said very specifically they want it to feel like Cops, where it's like real or
Interesting.
something.
Yeah, see, I was wondering why, and obviously this is not early David Fincher, but like earlier David
It's his
Fincher.
like second movie.
Oh, okay,
And his first
right
one
on.
he didn't really make.
There we
'cause
go.
They ruined it.
Okay,
Wait,
so
what is that story?
Alien 3.
he got fired like 3 times from that movie?
Well, they just destroyed that movie in editing.
Right.
And he said, I never want to make a movie. Or he says, I would rather get colon cancer than make another movie. And yet, here
wow.
we are.
Yeah, wow, David Fincher. Anyways, yeah, so it is early David Fincher, and I think that when I think of David Fincher, I think of like this very distinctive visual style that we see in The Social Network and House of Cards and what are some other Dragon
Zodiac,
Tattoo?
baby.
Zodiac,
Yeah, Gone Girl, that
where
one.
it's like there's very calculated, smooth camera moves.
There are some of those here.
There's a little bit, and I was like, oh, there he is. But there was a lot more of this kind of shaky cam stuff than I expected to see in a Fincher movie, which I thought was interesting. And I think it really serves to highlight. I'm sure you picked up on this, David. I saw somebody mention it, and that's the only reason I really thought of it, was in the end scene when they're the final confrontation. When the camera's on John Doe, it's very steady. It's extremely like smooth. If it's a motion shot, it's so smooth, and most of them are just stationary and not moving. When it cuts to Mills, it's going all over the place.
Yeah.
It's going crazy because he's like so emotional and crazy, and John Doe is like controlled. I thought that was really
That's
cool.
the proper use of handheld in a film. Just
Yeah.
using it as a crutch because like you don't feel like coming up with a shot list the day before is unacceptable. But using this to heighten drama, to heighten the thematic presentation is brilliant.
Yeah.
He also does, if I recall correctly, I haven't seen this in a few years, but I watched an awesome video from Lessons from the Screenplay where they showed this movie and they talked about how at the beginning of the movie with Mills and Somerset, they never put them in the frame together. It's so even if they're like kind of beside each other, you only show Somerset and then you only show Mills.
Oh.
And it's only until later when they start bonding that you'll get wide shots where you can see them together.
But then at the end, after he kills him, they turn away and they never face each other again.
Wow.
What?
Oh.
They never
Whoa.
face each other again.
I think, yeah, there's some really good shots in this movie. I think my favorite shot in the whole movie is when Kevin Spacey's gun is pointed right at Brad Pitt, and the focus is right on the gun, and so his silhouette is thrown out of focus, and it just felt like a comic book to me or something weird, but it was so beautiful.
It was a
like,
very comic book frame
yeah,
kind of.
I loved it. It could have been
you
The
just see the
Watchmen or
hand, right?
something.
Yeah, totally.
I really enjoyed it.
This movie could have totally been like a Batman prequel.
Well, new Batman movie will probably have steal elements from this. Is my guess.
That's not
Probably.
David Fincher, right?
No, but it's probably David Fincher light wannabe.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because the fact that they don't name the city really just makes it feel like generic crime-addled city.
I was pretty sure it was just Manhattan. They say upstate.
I thought it was Chicago.
Well, they say we moved from upstate. You always hear upstate New York.
When she said upstate, I was kind of like, oh, interesting.
And then they drive for an hour and they're in the desert. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So it's deliberately supposed to be nowhere.
Yeah.
The writer wrote it in New York, so it's clearly got a lot of inspiration from New York. And I think it's purposeful that like it's nowhere, because if you write it in New York, that carries a baggage. If you write it in
Right.
Chicago, it has a certain baggage, and this is just dark.
We're shot in L.A., but it's just raining every day. So
well, apparently that wasn't the plan. That's not in the script. It's just that the first day of shooting with Brad Pitt, when he arrived with the coffee, was raining, and you're like, it's easier to get a rain machine and just keep that continuity, so we don't have to worry about it for the rest of the outdoor scenes.
Really? You think that's why they did it?
Part of it.
It wasn't because like the rain keeps this like oppressive, depressing.
I'm sure it was
mood?
like, this is a win-win-win-win.
Right.
it's very noir,
Yeah. But
trench coats and stuff.
that's this unverifiable story.
What do you guys think about? We haven't really talked much about the themes in this movie, and to me, it's like, I'm a wuss according to James because
True.
I like to have some sort of redeeming
No, that's
takeaway.
not why. That's
What?
not why you're a wuss.
Huh?
That's not why you're a wuss.
Oh, just because I don't like knife dildos?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sick bastard.
That was a piece of art.
Jeez.
That guy was like, give me the photo back. Like,
Oh
this
my
isn't going to my
God.
portfolio.
No, like I appreciate that there's like a space in the creative world for these kind of works where it's like they can't all be really fulfilling movies with like happy endings where you feel refreshed or something. You wanna you wanna do something about some ill that has been described. This one is a bit more like kind of wallow in your sadness type of movie.
I like that. I love Black Mirror. I love turning off the TV and just being like, oh.
I like Black Mirror too, but I think Black Mirror has like really interesting things to say about not only human nature as this movie does, but also about technology and humans' tendency to exploit it and not understand the dangers of it.
So what are you saying about this movie?
This movie I think it's just kind of missing something. It's basically like life sucks, and what do you do about it? I think
Welcome to the 90s, Riley.
No, totally. It's an artifact of the time, and we get these movies.
What's wrong with
today.
that? I thought it was a pretty explored theme. Like the theme basically is what you said.
Yeah.
Like we live in a fallen world, and should we be apathetic or should we be agents of change? And if we're going to be agents of change, which end of the spectrum do you come from?
I think
because all the characters are explorations of this, right? You've got John Doe, who's like, this is unacceptable, and I'm going to start preaching and punishing people.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mills, who is the other end. I'm going to do good.
Yeah.
And then the main character, the protagonist, Somerset, in the middle, he's disillusioned. Should I even care anymore? I'll just back away from this.
Yeah.
Hang my hat. And then by the end, he decides I should be an agent of change.
I think the weakness there is that there is that arc for Somerset where he starts out apathetic, and we also, I'll get back to that. We also get a little bit of like discussion about like the varying viewpoints and stuff, but I would have liked to see a bit more of that. Like Mills and him kind of have a bit of an exchange in the bar, but it was kind of like, it was hard for me to pinpoint in that conversation exactly what each of them was saying. Like I got that Somerset was apathy, but Mills was saying, "Oh, I disagree with you." I'm like, okay, that's how we're going to leave it leave it, I guess.
I think the theme is tightly woven into the very nature of the script, but I think that they could have like dealt with it a little more. Like there's no interesting questions that are brought up by this movie, in my opinion.
It mostly feels like there's a crazy guy out there and he's killing people and we got to stop him and that's it.
Yeah, and they never for a moment convince you. You're like, maybe he's right. Maybe Kevin Spacey has a point. It's like, no, he's a psycho killer.
Obviously he's not right.
Yeah, the only thing that maybe pointed that direction was when he says in the car, you can't just tap somebody on the shoulder to get their attention anymore. You've got to do something extreme.
Yeah.
And prior to that, when he walked into the police station covered in blood, going, detective, detective, they don't acknowledge him until he goes, detective!
That's fair.
Detective!
Kevin Spacey, what?
Yeah.
What?
I thought, man, Kevin Spacey, wait, to go back to the point I was making earlier, I think that one of the main weaknesses in the movie and something that would have made me like it more, I think, is if Somerset's arc was a bit more clearly defined. We know that he kind of talks about being apathetic a little bit, but he's basically still apathetic right up till the end of the movie. And as David says, originally it ended right there with the helicopter, walking away to the helicopter. And if it did end there would be no arc, really. They kind of had a couple conversations about it. And so having an arc where it's only an arc because of the last, minute of the movie is kind of weak to me. I would have liked to see a little bit more discussion, a little bit more exploration.
Here's what he doesn't do. He doesn't have a dig deep moment.
Yeah.
Where where all is lost and he has to like really evaluate everything. And like, you know what? Because of this change that I've made throughout this course of this movie, I'm able to do this, and I'm deliberately doing this. That doesn't really happen. He just has, in the denouement of the movie is when he's like, yeah, I'll be around. I believe in
and
good
it wasn't.
stuff.
It's not even like that. It's like, I'll be around.
What does that even mean? I'll be around. Does that mean he's not retiring, or that
I
like?
think that I think that's the implication. But
I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's unclear.
I think what was kind of missing too was that Kevin Spacey's plan is working, like we needed to know that there's so many murders in this city that no one cares, but somehow his are breaking through and are becoming like important and noticed, and like there needs to be a little bit of, I think, an exploration of the actual impact of what he's doing instead of just on these two people.
I think that Somerset being the protagonist almost weakens it. Like, and he's sort of the protagonist. Like he definitely is the protagonist.
He's like narratively the protagonist, but it seems like the screen time and the interface, like the interaction between Mills and John Doe is way more. You're kind of thinking that Mills is the main character.
Yeah, it could go either way at some points. If we didn't have like more of those scenes where Somerset is kind of by himself or whatever. But I think the more interesting characters are for sure Mills and John Doe. I thought there was an interesting parallel between both of their views of people. Like Somerset chooses to try and get into the mind of John Doe. Like he's like, hey, once he figures out that the crimes are based on the 7 deadly sins, he's like, I'm going to go to the library. I'm going to take out all these books. I'm going to start researching. I'm going to try and understand why someone would want to do this. And Mills thinks that's dumb. He's like, people aren't complex. They're simple. Like he's just a crazy guy.
Dumb,
why are you trying to get into his head? He's just a lunatic.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a parallel to the way that John Doe sees the world. I think that he sees people as like either good or sinful. And like when you've succumbed to one of these 7 deadly sins, there's no saving you. You're just bad at that point. So you deserve death.
Yeah. I really found on this rewatch all the time spent researching like the Divine Comedy and all the 7 deadly sins.
Pretty long time.
Yeah. And it doesn't really have a good payoff. It felt like such a waste of time.
And it's also like, yeah, those are all high school books.
Yeah, and like, okay, yeah, it's the 7 deadly sins. Like, you don't need to like research to like kind of figure it out. Like, oh yeah, I've got 6 of them. What's the one I'm missing? Lust. Oh yeah. And you just
I
write them
recommend
down.
reading on the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, you don't have to read a whole book about traversing the 7 circles of hell so that you can understand how each one is. Like,
I mean, I guess that there's something maybe they could learn about. Like, oh, Dante has a special circle of hell where this happens to people.
Well,
so then maybe they're like, he's going to try to do that to somebody.
What he's going to do next, who the next victim is, if there's an order to them.
Maybe, but then like he pulls out a Shakespeare thing, like the, what is it, Merchant of Venice, where he like takes the pound of, he's like, if you can get a pound of flesh out of your body, like you can go, Mr. Lawyer.
Yeah.
Or like the sloth guy, he's a child rapist and a drug dealer.
That was very confusing.
Why is he the sloth victim?
I didn't. Yeah, that was
doesn't
very.
make any sense.
Yeah, that
that's
guy's
the weakest-
behavior wasn't sloth. Like it was just the killing
and then
of
he
him
just
was
tied
slow.
him down. Yeah, and I found that a weird.
Or he made him sloth.
I think they could have done a better job setting that up.
Yeah, maybe.
I just wanted you to hate him. But man, that scene is so effective.
Well, that's what.
Oh, when the guy's still alive.
When the guy's still alive.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I forget every time, and it's so
You
scary.
forget that he's still alive.
I'm like, ah!
No, I jumped. I was like,
yeah, totally.
no.
Yeah, this movie
And
has
it's
some
also
great
just
set pieces.
It's just horrifying because the guy looks like a corpse.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a living
With
thing.
the missing hand and
Yeah.
everything.
How did they do that?
So it was a real, it's a real person.
Yeah.
They found like a dude who weighed like 98 pounds and was severely underweight and unhealthy. And they're like, hey, can you lose some more weight? And he's like,
Well,
I cannot. But
no, he did.
did he?
I think the trivia tidbit that I read said David Fincher wanted somebody who was 90 whatever pounds, or he wanted somebody who was 90 pounds. And then the guy who applied is 96.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, you're good. You don't need to. We wanted somebody who was 90 pounds, but you're fine. You don't need to do it. And he ended up losing it anyways.
Wow.
So he went down to 90.
They actually tied him down for weeks.
Those are real bed sores, kids.
Horrible.
But to your point earlier about how Mills is always just dismissing John Doe as just a crazy guy and not a visionary or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like he needs to do that. His character needs to do that because it's like the sin he commits so that he has to I'm not saying sin in the
Like
7
the
deadly
rage,
sins of
yeah.
this movie, but in any movie, in any horror movie, these sins that you commit in Act 1 and 2 is like why you have to atone in Act 3, and that's why he gets screwed over at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I guess
he doesn't
so.
learn from this mistake.
Right. And it also serves to just kind of like illustrate that his character is headstrong and doesn't really want to like step back and think through these things.
Because he doesn't learn this lesson, because in the car, when he says you're a movie of the week, you're a t-shirt at best, he's still saying.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
No, but you'll get it soon.
Yeah, I think there's that one scene where when he chases away John Doe, who's the photographer posing as the photographer, Somerset says something like, "Oh, it's amazing to see a man given to a grown man given to his emotions," or something, and it's like sarcastic because it's not amazing. It sucks. You shouldn't give in to your emotions like that. But I think that's a great moment of characterization, because it's just like, okay, Mills is not the more cerebral of the two detectives.
That scene reminds me of this fan theory that I read that was talking about how Somerset is like complicit in John Doe's plan, because we know that Somerset is kind of a dirty cop. We know that he does this library database thing through the FBI. He's paying this guy cash under the table. He's kind of dirty, right? And then in that scene with the photographer that you're talking about, Mills is like, how would this guy know to be here right now? And that's when Somerset reveals that if you pay, they just pay money to the cops and they get lots of information from us.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a dirty cop, because like I feel like,
well, the cops who are taking those bribes that's not allowed.
Sure, it's not allowed for sure, but I think that's part of his apathy, and that's part of him kind of just like existing within the system. Like,
but here's this.
Okay.
Later on, when John Doe comes to the police station to turn himself in, after he goes, "Detective!" he then, it's not like totally explicit, but it's implied that he looks at Somerset and goes, "I know you." Oh. He says, "I know you."
Does he say that in the movie?
Yes. And he says it almost like he's like actually genuinely discovering this right now. So he's not talking to Mills because he knows Mills. Yeah. Because he
killed his wife already.
He just came from killing Mills' wife, and he had spared Mills' life.
Right. Yeah, that whole interaction.
So he knows Mills. I know you. He's talking about Somerset. So when he paid the cops to get that access or something like that, he must have seen him at some point.
Yeah. And wait, what's the point of that?
It's just, I don't know. It's just like a subtext where Mills is just helping John Doe in a way, just by being kind of dirty.
Yeah, I guess
so.
That works with the cops selling the information for me, where like the cops are apathetic. They don't really think about what they're doing. It's not that they're trying to screw over their partners.
Yeah.
They're just like, it doesn't matter.
I think that something I would associate with like a dirty cop is like taking money to favor some business one over the other, or like letting people go who had committed crimes because they get paid or whatever. I think that's what, like, bending the rules so that you can get ahead in an investigation. I feel like I don't really.
Do you think it's okay? I
don't think
Mills
it's okay.
Does, breaking down the door and then paying a street person to make up a story so you have a reason to be there? I think that's a good.
I don't have a huge problem with that.
Really?
Do I?
I have a huge problem with cops having that power.
Okay, wait.
Because you're right. In this
they
scenario,
know it's his,
that
was an interesting dilemma, because they found the guy's apartment. He's on a killing spree. Someone's dying every day, and it's not like it's a normal. It's not like they're chasing some like late ticket fee or something. Like, this guy is a serial murderer. They have confirmed this. They just got in a chase with him. And I'm like, okay, they got to get in there. I don't know. I feel like that's less like, whoa, the morals of this, like paying a street person to lie as a witness. I'm like, whatever.
The fact that they just got in a gunfight with him, it's like,
that's a standard detective stuff, in my opinion.
We know it's his house.
Yeah.
If someone was investigating
detectives bend the rules all the time. That's the whole thing.
I'm not cool with that.
You're not cool with that?
There's rules for a reason. It's an abuse of power.
You're just like a deontologist. Like, rules are rules. That's what it is.
I think obviously in this scenario it's justified. Like, as an audience, we know this guy's the killer.
Right.
We know that he just chased them. But I think as a general rule, I'm not cool with police.
No, of course not. Of course not as a general rule. I'm not saying that that's cool all the time. I'm saying in this particular instance, it didn't bother me that much because of the circumstance.
But Somerset was the one who didn't want that to happen.
Right.
He was telling him,
and that's also why I'm not really seeing him as a dirty cop per se, because like he was like, hey, let's do this by the book.
That's interesting. That the movie. Do you think the movie's painting that action as the right thing to do or not? Because, like, I mean, in the scenario of this case, it is the right thing to do because they need to progress it and they need to get motion. But in the context of the theme of the movie, where Somerset's apathy is part of like the problem, do you think the movie is saying that this action is good or bad?
Which action?
Breaking into the apartment and like making up the story to get in there.
I think that I think that you can be fine not really labeling that action good or bad and just being like, okay, it happened and that's good.
It might instead of the movie taking a position on it, it might just be a further exploration of how Mills is just bound to his emotions.
That's fair.
For sure.
That's fair. And
in a rage, he smashes the door.
He can't control himself. This freaking guy. It's also why he's so annoying. Sorry, going back to like what we thought of Mills as a character and like the actor, I think, we already talked about Brad Pitt's performance, but Mills as a character, like I hate this guy. He's so annoying. I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Stop. Just control yourself.
My big nitpick is they do the pet the dog moment, which is totally fine. But
the what?
The pet the dog moment, which is like you get your character to pet a dog.
It's like save the cat.
Yeah. It's just like whatever.
Right.
Movie shorthand.
And he rolls right into those newspapers that they put down.
I'm like, he does not hang out with those dogs ever if he rolls right into the pea pad newspaper.
Yeah.
And there's like three big dogs in a room. Like,
ew,
no.
dude. That's
I was
gross.
like, oh,
Maybe
man,
he knows they don't use the paper, but it's just there because it's a new place and it's just in case. And
I thought that was just weird that he's got like 3 big dogs in his apartment. They're just like in a room. Cage.
Weren't they Great Danes though?
Yeah.
Yeah, Great Danes are good apartment dogs.
Are they?
Oh, okay, it's fine then.
That's what I've heard.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they like getting out too.
Counterintuitive, but
No, they hate walks.
They
beg you
prefer
not
to be
to walk
contained in
bad
one room.
hips. They got bad hips.
Yeah, don't let them run.
I want to make a note of the final sequence, the way that it does visual storytelling. We already talked about the shaky cam.
Right.
But the other thing, and I ripped into the fountain so hard for this, but in this sequence, they brilliantly used the setting to have all these crisscrossing or like diagonal lines that create visual tension that your eye and your spirit are like, there's something up with it. And so,
so they keep the helicopter guy actually, and the cops themselves, they keep saying like, oh, those high tension towers.
Yep.
So you're saying like,
so
Tension.
they serve
like my heart.
They serve a million purposes. They serve to say like they're in the middle of nowhere. They're like in a terrible spot. They're underneath high power tension. But they very specifically choose, like think about it. You're shooting this scene in the middle of the desert. You can shoot in a million directions. There's no wires. There's no posts in a million directions. But they choose very specifically to find the busiest backgrounds they possibly can for the highest tension moments. Like when Brad Pitt's about to shoot him, there's 2 towers that are visible and they're crossing lines going every direction. And that's a brilliant use of that location to heighten the visual storytelling, the feeling you get just by looking at the frame that supports what's happening. And I want to praise the movie for that because that's not easy to do, and they found a way to make it work in the middle of the desert.
It's like, well, we want to have this confrontation out there in the middle of nowhere, but we need a way to
visually
keep it busy.
show. Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Brilliant. I love it.
I think that scene definitely would have been not as affecting if it was just like clear sky.
it would have been like a Western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of is. The way that they shoot it too is like very similar to like the Mexican standoff in Good, Bad, the Ugly, where it's like getting closer and closer to them, and they're like, oh, but it works because it's a 90s version of it, and it works.
Yeah, and I think those scenes work because Westerns kind of like depend on this like quiet intensity, whereas this scene, there's a lot going on.
It's frenzy.
The van is barreling down the road. He opens the box. He's like, everyone's screaming. He run back, shaky cam, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't have that quiet, like, just dread.
Yeah.
That we don't need to have all of these visuals happening. Like, we just in the Westerns, you just need to see the guy's face, the single beat of sweat rolling down, and it's just like a.
And it's different because like you're like, who's gonna shoot who? But the only tension is, will Brad Pitt shoot Kevin pedophile?
We haven't talked about Kevin Spacey.
Has Kevin Spacey ever played like a leading man who's like just a nice good guy?
Pay it forward. He was he wasn't the leading man. He was like the husband or like the boyfriend teacher that shows up and is just a good guy.
And also, oh shoot, what's the name
like
of the movie?
Like in K-Pax, he's weird.
Yeah, Usual
K-Pax.
Suspects.
He's weird.
He's weird.
I like K-Pax.
American Beauty. He's weird.
American Beauty.
American Beauty is his admission of guilt.
I
we just
know.
didn't listen.
It's so weird, man.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down. I'm like, he's so good at playing weirdos. How did we not know?
Oh, totally.
It's exactly like Louis C.K. Louis C.K. is just like, I told you in my stand-up that I'm a fucking weirdo, man.
Yeah.
And now you're just mad at me and surprised when you find out it's true. What'd you think?
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's kind of similar in that.
Yeah.
Beyond the Sea. Did you see that one?
Nope. Sounds great.
He's nice in that one. He's like a jazz singer.
Oh.
Yeah, he's like a normal person.
Do they sing the song?
Somewhere beyond the sea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. You know how like if someone gets canceled and you don't really care about the art they make, you're just like, see you later. But then when it's Michael Jackson, you're like, well, I'm still gonna listen to Michael Jackson music.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, I think that it makes it easy when Kevin Spacey plays bad guys.
Yeah, you can watch to hate him.
Yeah, you can watch the movie and be like, oh, I'm supposed to think you're a creep. Great. But if he was like, if you're watching a Kevin Spacey movie and he's like the good guy, it might be a little bit harder.
I think he's a good actor, but there's nothing that he's made that is like must-watch viewing for cinephiles to me.
I really like Kevin Spacey's acting. Like he was probably in my top 5 actors.
Absolutely.
Really, but like I thought he was so cool.
Yeah.
I still think his performances are great.
No, Kevin Spacey's I love him as an actor. He's great. Too bad he's a freaking weirdo in real life. Too bad. Maybe next time, Kevin Spacey.
My baby really loves music videos right now. She keeps wanting to watch frickin' who's that guy that punched Rihanna so hard that Chris Brown. She doesn't have hearing in her ear anymore.
Yeah,
Chris Brown. I'm like, I don't want to send this guy any streams.
Yeah,
right. Well,
but I really like the collab with Little Dicky. I woke up Chris Breezy. It's fucking awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
you can't listen to other Little Dicky songs.
He's definitely someone that I'm just like, man, who cares? Bye.
And then R. Kelly.
Only one song I care about.
Which one? Remix to Ignition?
Well, 3 songs.
How about The Weatherman?
No.
How about Backyard Party?
No.
Oh, he's got some good ones.
In the Closet, like the whatever.
Trapped in the Closet?
Yeah, that one.
That's a joke.
Ignition
Trapped in the
and
Closet.
I Believe I Can Fly. Those are the only ones I'm like, I'm sad I can't listen to those.
Is Trapped in the Closet a joke?
No.
So.
But it's a joke for everyone who's not him.
I love it.
Like it's brutal.
It's so
no, but like
funny.
you watch that and you're like, this has to be a joke. There's no way that he doesn't know.
Insane, dude.
Huh?
He's just insane.
Yeah, he was a sex cult leader.
I feel like there's parts of that where it's just like clearly comedic, but I don't know.
He pees on 14-year-olds. Like he's not like you.
Yeah, he had a sex. He had a sex cult where he imprisoned people to have sex with him.
Oh man. Oh, I had a question. There's a couple parts where Mills is like explicitly homophobic. Like he drops the F word and like at various points. I don't recall
Who does he say that to again?
I think he
isn't he spaz out in his car or something.
Yeah, he calls somebody the F word. I don't. Can we say that? Is that a thing you do?
Don't do it.
No, anyways.
I think it's when he's reading the Divine Comedy and he can't handle it.
Yeah.
He calls it F word.
And I'm like, is that a relic of the '90s, or is that like we're supposed to think he's a jerk?
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be that. I don't think that's. I think it's he's just a spaz. I think that's,
he says like the R word as well, and
that's it's just a regular slur in the '90s. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be like. It wouldn't be a signal. It's like, oh, he hates gay people, because back then, like half the audience did.
Right. I just didn't remember. I was like, wait, what were things out of the 90s again? Did we hate those people?
Do you guys think that movies in the 90s were easier to make audiences suspend their disbelief on? Because I'm like, when I watch this, if I put my 2020 vision on, I'm like, that end setup's pretty ridiculous. I don't think it would happen quite like that.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Like his whole kind of like, oh, it's my masterpiece.
We got to go to the desert together, but it's only YouTube. And like, oh, it's got to be perfect at this time, 7 o'clock. Ooh, it's 7:01. Ooh, now my head is here. Oh.
I love this voice.
I just found it so like cartoony and like fantasy almost, how crazy it is. Like it's like the Joker times 16.
Right. It does kind of seem like
something. And if I think if it happened in a 2020 movie, you would have a bunch of videos being like, why 7 is stupid. This is so unbelievable.
There definitely would be like a huge like police entourage that would intercept that van like way before it delivered the package. And
I think that it was tonally consistent with what the movie had established at the very least. You know, the kind of like, oh, we have I'm a themed killer. Like he's basically like he's like an adult Batman villain. Like the
Riddler, yeah.
Ooh, the 7 deadly sins. Better watch out, sinners.
Yeah. They call me the sinner.
Yeah. The sin slapper. I don't know.
Yeah, favorite song? Sinner Man.
So I asked that not because I want to like condemn the 90s.
Favorite comedian? Sinbad.
Stop.
Oh yeah, I don't want to condemn the 90s for being
favorite philosophy? Cynicism.
Oh, that was good. I like that.
That's pretty good. Welcome. Yeah, the 90s, it's not their fault. I am angry at 2020 for everyone being
relationship status single.
Stop, please.
All right, actually done.
Yeah, that everyone in 2020 thinks they're an expert and has to constantly break down everything in movies. But like, is it realistic?
That's what we're doing here.
No, I don't think
That's a good point. No, I think you're saying that you're basically saying you don't like postmodernism. Postmodernism,
Yeah,
where the idea
wherever
of
we are now.
the idea of postmodernism is so boring.
No,
Let's postpone this conversation
so
and let me
lame.
ask you this question.
Yes, please do.
What's the deal with Somerset's knife? It's kind of part of his like identity. It's on the table when he's getting dressed. He later throws it into like a target, like a bullseye thing. He has this knife.
He cuts the art, and he's like, "What's that?"
Is this supposed to be just it makes him scary, or do they really just know that later on he needed something to open the box with? So why not him just have a knife the whole movie?
Well, that's not a charitable reading of it. I think a charitable reading of it would indicate that the switchblade is like an illegal weapon, right? You're not supposed to have it. So him as a cop having that kind of indicates that he's world weary.
He's a bit dirty.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's trying to stop the bad guys, but at the same time, he's not dirty, but he has embraced a little bit of the darkness that you need in order to survive. In
A little gray area.
Yeah.
A switchblade is illegal?
Well, doesn't Mills say?
I think it was.
Doesn't Mills say? Is that a switchblade?
Yeah. He's like, is that a switchblade?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think they are. I don't know if they're still illegal. I remember growing up and knowing that switchblades were illegal.
Yeah, I guess that's why people have butterfly knives, because they're so lame.
Well, and they're not as user friendly. They're not like
you have to like.
Yeah, you just want to take it out.
They're cool though.
But I mean, guns are legal.
What?
What's more dangerous, a gun or a
Well, one's
switchblade?
licensed.
One's licensed.
Not in the States. You can go get guns without a license.
What? You don't need.
It's not like a course.
You don't need a pal.
I think most places you
What?
need a license. It might be easy to get a license, but we're Canadians here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're in the States and you're like, I know all of the laws. We don't.
We don't.
But I'm pretty sure switchblades were illegal most of the time, probably just because they're like a concealed thing, or like it's more dangerous. You could be handling it. I don't know. I don't know why they're illegal. Don't ask me.
That's crazy.
But I'm pretty sure. Okay, wait. We got to Google it.
Got to get a
have to know
switchblade
this.
license. Got to go to a class for 6 weeks. This is a hunting weapon. I will hunt boar with
Any
this switchblade.
knife that, in Canada, any knife that has a blade that opens automatically by gravity, by centrifugal force, or by hand pressure applied to a button, spring, or other device in or attached to the handle of the knife is a prohibited item and considered illegal. So that maybe they're only illegal in Canada. Illegal.
It makes sense because you can fit a pretty big knife in a pocket without people realizing. Whereas if you have a straight knife,
Oh, they're legal in America.
welcome to America. We are ignorant.
Oh, but they're different by state.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in Arizona, at least, you don't need a permit to purchase a handgun or rifle.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's lots of states like that. You can just like go to Walmart, buy a gun, buy ammo.
Like Alaska, Wyoming, Vermont.
Okay, so most states in the United States, switchblades are legal. New Jersey illegal. New York illegal. DC illegal.
It takes place in New York, so
yeah. So this is
therefore-
based on one of the
enough.
cities where it's illegal. Okay, question answered.
I can't-
Perfect movie.
I actually just learned that there's states where you don't need any kind of license to buy a gun. That's insane.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why people want
I knew that you
that.
could buy them at Kmart and crap, but I thought you needed to have a pal like you do here.
No, this. No.
Wait, is that in the majority of the U.S.? You can just walk into a
Probably
store.
not
No,
majority.
it's not the majority.
Oh, okay.
But like Florida, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's all right.
The place where they should have licenses the most in Florida.
Florida
That's
man's
how the
on
states
the
be.
loose.
Yeah.
It's okay. We shouldn't stick on that too long.
Okay.
When I watch movies like this, why is 7 an important number to humans?
Oh, yeah.
Why is that
I
like-
listened to a Radiolab podcast about
Ooh,
this.
tell me.
7
God's
holes
number.
in the head, baby.
What?
Everyone's counting now. And,
Wait. Are there 7 holes in the head?
Yeah.
It's
Do
just
the eyes count?
Yeah. That's 2, 4, 6, 7.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
It's like the first weird number. Like, it's a prime. It's odd.
Yeah.
It's just the lowest weird number.
I find that so fascinating because like it's like in many different cultures, many different religions, 7 is like the number of completion or like is the number of luck or something.
It's important because it represents a platonic form that exists that we just try to represent through various mediums.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that like in movies too, like
It's an abstract ideal.
when you write like a group of characters, you don't ever want to do 6, you want to do 7. Like 7 is the number of like a good group of people.
The Magnificent 7. The Dirty 7. 70 times 7.
Hateful 8. Well, Crap.
Oh no.
I think he was
ruined
purposely doing it on purpose. But like Ocean's 11, it's like there's something about those odd numbers that are just more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
appealing.
I think that the reason that we are having a discussion about it is because it exists as kind of like this goes back to the beginning of civilization. You know, it's like it's been an important number for that long. So now we're like, ooh, 7.
But why was it an important number?
If we
since
restarted civilization right now, if we're just like, boom, everything's gone and we don't have any history,
then? 16.
7 might not be as important.
Yeah, what number would it be? 69?
Nice. You know what I heard? You know how this is totally not about this movie, but you know how those ancient cultures like in Mesopotamia, they had 12-based number systems instead of 10-based?
Yep.
And I always thought, that's weird. 10-based is so much more natural because you've got 10 fingers you can just count on.
Right.
But they actually would count to 12 on one hand. But you look at the digits on your finger, each finger is broken up into 3 different sections, and you use your thumb to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you basically point your thumb at the different sections of your finger as you go through your 4 fingers. 4 times 3 is 12.
But then you can't count your thumb.
Yeah, but you can you can go like this, and you know that you're on 7.
Yeah, but see, that's dumb. The Mesopotamians were dumb.
They were pretty.
As soon as you're
Cool.
doing math.
That's why they didn't survive, and we did.
That's why they died in 2012. It's very recent.
Screw Mesopotamia,
Yeah,
man.
base
Who cares?
10. I choose base 10 for everything.
I choose base 10.
I choose base 10.
Do you guys have some nitpicks?
I do.
I have it's not so much a nitpick, but I the part where the guy has to cut out a pound of flesh, and he's like, well, okay, there's not like a part of the movie where he has to do that, but they find out that that's what he had to do, and I'm like, James gonna love this part. Like talking about which part of the body you can
the love handle.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you choose? Leg?
Like which part of the body is expendable?
Calves.
You can live without.
Calves. Easy.
Calves.
You can't stand.
Yeah, but like if you start cutting out important bits here, you're dead.
They're not important. He's an overweight lawyer, dude. He just chopped off his love handles. It's a great idea.
But then he died anyway.
He didn't know.
Earlobes.
Not a surgeon.
Take my lobes.
It's a lot of lobes to get to a pound.
What is the question here? How is this a nitpick?
I thought you would like that part.
Why?
Because you're a sick bastard.
Apparently,
I'm a wussy. You're a sick bastard. We're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's true. I like that part. It's cool.
Yeah. My first nitpick is when the special force or the SWAT team goes in with full assault gear and no helmets. It's so dumb.
Are they SWAT? Or are they just cops?
They're cops, but like
It's Dr.
from
What's his name?
I don't remember.
It's the guy from Scrubs.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
And he's fine in this movie. Like, it
guess
didn't
that's
really
his-
bother me.
He's in some comedies too, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Who is
He's
that
in a bunch
guy?
of stuff.
Find
He's
his
the guy,
name.
he's the main doctor from Scrubs that has a heart of gold.
What else does he do?
Act in other movies.
What's he?
Scrubs.
No, but like, what's the show that where he's like makes a funny face?
Scrubs.
I have never seen Scrubs, so it's not
Apparently
that.
you have.
I haven't seen Scrubs either, but I know he's from
You guys
Scrubs.
haven't seen Scrubs?
No.
It's great.
Zach Braff? What a wussy. I don't want to watch that guy.
Too similar to real life. I'm out of here. Here's a nitpick. The credits went the wrong way.
Yeah, that was interesting.
What do you mean?
The credits rolled.
It's because
From the bottom up.
It's because the world's so frickin' upside down, dude. Why even try?
That's the 90s. honey.
Darkness.
The
This movie is like the Batman song that he sings in the Lego movie. Darkness. Upset.
Yeah, you can tell just from the font on the cover, and it's like, oh yeah, that aesthetic is kind of quaint now.
Yeah. One of my other nitpicks is when he like jumps off the building or whatever. He jumps off the fire escape and lands in the soft garbage.
Oh yeah,
That's like a
classic.
permanent nitpick. Anytime you like roll into soft
Thank
garbage.
goodness
it's
there
like-
was soft garbage.
Yeah.
That's the
super
first thing
clean.
they teach you in Police Academy.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're going to jump out a window, make sure there's soft garbage at the bottom.
Or at least a couple awnings.
Sounds like Vin Diesel's in the house now.
That wasn't Vin
I'm
Diesel.
pretty sure that's Vin Diesel. Family.
Oh, sure. Thematically, maybe, but not the
No,
voice.
I don't know.
We were all trying to do Vin Diesel. We can't do it.
family.
What do you jump out a window?
Now it's Buffalo Bill.
Can't do it.
I live my life a quarter mile at a
Bill.
time.
See, that's a serial killer I can get behind.
Yeah. What do you guys?
Fuck me.
How do you compare this to the other seminal '90s serial killer film, Silence of the Lambs?
I wish John Doe was in it for more. Like I think Kevin Spacey does such a great job. At the same time, I do appreciate how late he comes into the game.
Well,
though,
we're almost
because-
blessed to have him as much as we do, because I felt like it was almost like a subversion that we don't spend the whole movie trying to solve it. And it's not like Scooby-Doo, like, it was you all along.
Right.
We get him at like the midpoint that it's like, oh no, he's turning himself in, and this is a different kind of movie now.
Yeah.
It's got all this kind of twist ending that maybe in hindsight seems like you want to have it a different way, but I think in 1995 that was like, wow, we get to spend all this time with it.
Yeah, just having him walk in is like such a weird take on it, but it really works.
That was definitely cool, and I do appreciate that we got the little scene in the cop car while they're driving out.
I think the more of him you got, the less you would like it anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a really good amount where you're like every minute is cherished.
I love particularly in that scene how Somerset's reading of him is justified. Like Mills is like, you suck, you're just T-shirt of the week or whatever, and he's like, no, I completely know what I'm doing. You have no idea what your deal is. Like you're just driven by emotions, and I have like a coherent philosophy.
Yeah.
It's a sucky philosophy, but he's got a coherent philosophy.
But I love that Somerset is just like, he's like, yeah, but you don't actually believe your philosophy, because like if you thought this was a mission from God, you wouldn't enjoy it so much.
But then he comes back with a good comeback.
What does
He's
he
like,
say?
well, I everyone enjoys their work. If you like, it's not a negative for me that I enjoy something that I'm meant to do or whatever. It's like if you're a really talented sculptor.
Pretty convenient though, buddy boy.
Oh, for sure.
I felt this movie's got to be pretty influential. I felt like during the scene where they're showing the woman who died from pride, the one who had the option to call for help, but then she would be saved and disfigured versus just killing herself there. I was like, man, that's kind of like Saw.
Yeah.
That's like exactly the premise of Saw.
Very much inspiring Saw. You can see this movie influencing a lot of late 90s, early 2000s
Even
movies.
the fingertips like being cut off, that's got to be somewhere else. I swear I've seen
There's
that.
a lot of interesting ideas posed here, or introduced here anyways.
Yeah.
I have one question.
And one question only.
Should Somerset have stopped Mills from shooting John Doe? Because he definitely could have. He's like, throw the gun away. Oh, no, jeez. He's like, throw the gun away. Oh, no, you're going to be emotionally affected. Put your gun down.
And it ruins the case.
Why can't he just walk up to him and be like, give me the gun or something? Or like try. He just kind of stands there.
I think he could have done more, but I think that it would have been kind of distracting for the tension. It would have just changed the nature of that tension.
Oh, you're
of that
saying
scene.
for the film's sake.
Yeah,
it's
because
good
like,
that
then
he
all of a sudden
didn't.
you're worried that like, oh, is he going to shoot Somerset? Oh, is Somerset going to shoot him? Oh,
Sure.
And I think that would have not helped.
But
Also,
I mean,
if they
from
get
a-
really physical, if they start having like a wrestling match, then you still have this criminal sitting there. Like he could intervene and then get the gun. And
I guess so. I mean, he's
That'd be
he's
such a
he's
bad ending.
he's bound at hand and foot. He can't really move very fast. But I'm not even talking about in terms of the film and the flow or whatever. I'm saying from a character standpoint, like it's kind of weird that
he's
he
got
just
that
stood
knife.
there. Yeah, exactly.
Throws
Spins
it
it
at him.
around.
We know
He's
he
like-
can throw it.
He's spinning it around in his fingers. Mills.
I think it's important for him to give him the choice, I guess, and like, I don't know.
Well, that for sure. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, this is your choice. It's your wife that died. But at the same time, he's like, he's gonna win if you kill him, and also we're not gonna be able to punish him. Like
Yeah.
then he's just dead.
He wins.
This is what
Yeah,
he
this is
wants.
wants,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, I think he should have stopped him.
yeah, well, it's a way better movie that he didn't.
Well, for sure.
It's the 90s, baby.
It's the
They
wild west of the 90s.
They say that in the in American Psycho. I always thought that was so good. There's like a character, just like a side character, like a model or something, yelling over the music of a bar into Pat Bateman's ear, like, it's the 90s. It's just-
They really thought they were. I mean, it's like the new millennium. The new millennium's coming. They're like, whoa, we're getting crazy.
they
in this
thought they were
decade, dude.
progressive AF.
Yeah.
They like had some gay rights.
This isn't the 70s or the 80s. This ain't your grandpa's decade.
Got to party like it's 1999.
It's the 90s. We got skateboards.
Skateboards were in the 80s.
We got better skateboards.
We
got symmetrical skateboards.
We got the Matrix.
Not those
Yeah,
weird
penny
skateboards that
boards.
look like surfboards.
Pennyboards.
Penny boards too.
banana seats.
Things are getting wild in the
onto
world
wheels.
of skateboards.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's time.
Rollerblades?
It's time to call it. That's how you
What
know.
are we doing next week?
Did we decide? I thought we were gonna do your name. That
We're doing
anime
your
one.
name? Sure.
Are we doing an anime? An anime?
Anime.
No way. You're doing my anime movie instead.
What a betrayal.
You bastard!
Top 10.
I don't think people will talk like that in this one, right? Especially if you're not watching the dub.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen it. It's good. I'm
You've
excited.
seen Your Name?
Yeah.
And you haven't. You haven't seen a single anime.
I've seen a single one.
Spirited Away.
I've seen
I want
Spirited Away.
the listeners to know that I'm not saying anime unironically right now. This is not how I pronounce it normally, but now it's in my head and I have to keep saying anime.
Anime.
Spider-Man.
That's right. Anyways,
Okay, I guess that's what we're doing.
I guess that's what we're doing. Maybe not though. Don't hold us to that because we might change our minds.
Well, we did two dark ones.
We need a lighter.
We're doing.
Is Your Name
Endgame.
light?
It's not light though, but it's not heavy. It's interesting.
Ooh, let's do Moana.
No.
Moana, na
We're doing
na
an
na.
animated movie. We'll do a good one.
You don't like Moana?
Moana is
Moana's
good,
fine. It's
and
good.
you're just an elitist.
It's good. It's not the best. It's not the best.
It's fine. It's
good.
I'd
It's
say
good.
it's the best Disney non-Pixar movie that I've seen.
In the 2000s? Like,
The CG.
the CG ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right,
Yeah.
and that's how we'll end this podcast.
I left my island on the ocean. Cool.
That's a song.
Da, 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 da,
So wait, you have seen it?
How far I'll go.
James, you've seen it?
No, I just listened to the Strong Songs podcast talking about one of the songs.
Oh,
and, got
nice.
some background there.
And Kirk Hamilton
Kirk
said
Hamilton,
it was really
He
good.
was saying he likes it.
Great movie.
Great guy.
Bye.
Love you.